You are listening to the Seven Rivers Student Ministry Podcast, a ministry at Seven Rivers Church in Citrus County, Florida. Here at SRSM, we believe that all students are lovable through a relationship with Jesus. Visit our website at sevenrivers.org/students. Hey guys, this is Mikey Puckett with Seven Rivers Student Ministry. You're listening to episode 8, Not My Own Faith. This story comes to us from Wendy Cash, and she's very involved at our church and very involved at our school. She works at our school in the front offices, and many of you know her and maybe have seen her around and have probably heard a lot of her story as she's very honest and open about it. I remember one day going to chapel this year, and I sat down in the chapel, and Wendy came up and she shared her story, and it moved me. It moved me how she was so honest and authentic, how she shared not only the suffering she experienced physically, but the suffering of her own heart, the torment that she felt on the inside, and how she processed that in a real, very real way with the Lord. And so this story is a gift to us, and you're going to get to hear a lot of the things that Wendy has faced physically, but also the things that she's faced spiritually because of those sufferings on the physical side of things. And so she's going to share that, and it's a gift to hear stories like this because in a lot of ways when I hear it, I go, oh, I'm not the only one who's ever thought like that. Oh, like it's so good to know that there's someone else out there that has felt what I have felt. And I think a lot of you guys are going to feel that and experience that as you listen to Wendy's story. You're going to go, oh, I thought I was the only one who felt this way towards God at times. And to know that there's someone out there that says, no, I felt that way too. So I hope that her story encourages you to share and be honest about your own story. Wendy, we are so thankful for you. You are a gift to us, to this church, and it's just such a joy and an honor to do life with you and to know you. And so thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for being so honest with us. You are a blessing and you are a gift. So here is Wendy's story.
So I tell my students in Bible class regularly, every year, that the older you get, the more you live in this world and live life, the more likely it is that you're going to suffer in some way. And I don't say that to be negative or macabre, but I say it so that they'll remember where their hope lies. I want them to remember that Mrs. Cash, at least, was one person that said, when you experience suffering, remember that your hope is in the Lord, that He is your strength, especially in your weakness. So I'm Wendy Cash, and I have experienced all kinds of suffering, being one that's drawing close to 50 years old. Just by virtue of living in this world for 50 years, you experience suffering, either as a child with abusive parents, which I had an abusive parent, or just suffering from your own bad decisions and the consequences that come from that, suffering from loss of loved ones, broken relationships, broken friendships. But the one type of suffering that seems to have afflicted me quite chronically is physical suffering. So let me just spend a few minutes telling you a little bit about my thorn in the flesh, which is physical ailments and chronic illness. So I would say close to 20 years ago, maybe 19 years ago, I suffered my first chronic illness. I was walking across the church and school parking lot to go work in the preschool at Seven Rivers, and my leg tightened up, it stiffened up, I could barely move. And I thought, what's wrong with me? I thought maybe I had exercised too much or not enough, and kept on going. And to make a long story short, over the next several months, I would experience extreme rigidity in my muscles, mostly my leg muscles, my lower back. It got to the point where I would become so rigid and so tight in my muscles that I would fall. Um, and I didn't know what was going on. I went to numerous doctors. I went to neurologists and um, all kinds of specialists. And about 8 months after all this started, I found out that I had a very rare neuromuscular disease called stiff person syndrome. It doesn't get better. It never goes away. It's autoimmune in nature. And this would start my kind of journey, I guess you could say, in autoimmune illnesses. Autoimmune, if you don't know, means self-attacking. Something happens in your body where your body just starts attacking itself. Um, so I walked on a cane for about those 8 months, 9 months, while I was searching doctors, trying to find out what was wrong with me. Went to counseling, went into depression, went into therapy, had anxiety, of course. Found out that I had this rare disease. I take muscle relaxing medications to this day to help me cope with that. Another autoimmune issue that I have is thyroid disease. I found out I had that after my second child, Riley, was born. And your thyroid is a gland in your neck that helps with your metabolism. And so when that goes bad, lots of things go bad. Um, I take medicine now, about 21 years of taking a medication called Synthroid that helps to regulate that. Golly, about, I don't know, 10 years ago, um, this isn't an autoimmune disease, but I became anemic. Well, that is autoimmune. Anemia means that your body isn't metabolizing iron very well, or vitamin B, or vitamin D, or B12, and it causes one to be very fatigued, very tired all the time. So at this point, I had my stiff person syndrome, my thyroid disease, my anemia. It was Christmas, and I had taken my small group from Seven Rivers out on a Christmas shopping trip and bowling. I got home. Everyone else in the house was either spending the night at a friend's house or out to a movie. And I was walking down the steps of my house, and my leg gave out on me, and I was weak from my anemia, and my legs were stiff from my stiff person syndrome, and I fell down my stairs. It was so hard that my shoulder blades knocked holes in the landing of my staircase. I broke my C6 and my C7 vertebrae, and my right arm immediately went numb. To make that long story short, I finally got a hold of my husband. He and my son were at a movie, and he rushed home, and we went to the emergency room, got the x-rays, found I had broken 2 vertebrae in my cervical spine, went to Monroe Regional Hospital in Ocala, and I remember the doctor saying, well, first let me just say this. By this time, I forgot something really important. I also was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. That's kind of big, isn't it? For a person with the rare neurological disorder of stiff person syndrome, very often type 1 diabetes follows. Type 1 means your pancreas just quits producing insulin. You just don't make it. Most children who have diabetes, it's type 1, you're automatically and immediately insulin dependent. You either have to inject it or you have to wear an insulin pump. I wear an insulin pump. So that happened as well. So, stiff person syndrome, anemia, type 1 diabetic, um, thyroid disease. Then I fall down the stairs and break my neck. I'm in the hospital at Monroe Regional, and the neurosurgeon comes in, and he's very good. But he says to me, I need to tell you that chances are this is going to go very well. I've done this surgery before. I know exactly what I'm doing. But it's incumbent upon me to let you know about the possible outcome, negative outcome. There's two possible negative outcomes you need to know before we go into surgery. One is that you may not be able to talk again because he's making an incision right near my larynx in the front of my neck so that he can do surgery at the back of my neck. The second thing he said is because this is a cervical spine issue, I might come out of surgery unable to walk. So when he told me that, for the first time since I broke my neck, this is about 5 hours later, getting ready for surgery, I just started crying. I just started weeping. And he looked at me like, I'm not sure what to do with that. And he said, okay then. And he left and went and prepped for my surgery. And I told God I hated him. I hated him. I had this rare neuromuscular disease that caused me to walk on a cane. It ultimately caused me to fall down the stairs. I was still afraid to shoot insulin into my gut 3, 4, 5 times a day. I felt like God had piled on all these physical complications, these terrible things that are not going to go away and they're not going to get better. I'm going to have these complications till the day I die. And I hated him. I really did. Went into surgery and I woke up from surgery. The first thing I did was I wiggled my toes and moved my legs, and they moved. I was like, yes, this is good. And I went, to see if I could make it sound, and I could. I was so happy. The nursing staff was wheeling me back to my room, my recovery room, and my husband and my 2 children were there standing over me. And then there were other people from from church standing over me. I was laying flat on my back on this gurney, and they were standing over me, smiling and telling me they'd been praying for me. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it because just a few hours before that, I told God I hated him, and yet he had provided this cloud of witnesses for me when I got out of surgery. I didn't emotionally heal right away. It took me a while to get rid of the bitterness and the anger. But I did miraculously heal from breaking my neck. It was a miracle. There's a lot of people that break their cervical spine, number 6 and number 7, who never walk again, and sometimes they don't live. So I am a walking miracle. And after time, God brought me back around again, and he gave me that time to heal. And in the meantime, he gave me people to have faith on my behalf when I couldn't. That's what being part of the family of God is all about. It's being surrounded by a cloud of witnesses to encourage you and uplift you, and lift your arms like Aaron did for Moses in the Old Testament when you're just not able to have strength, spiritual strength on your own. So that's one of my stories of suffering. Again, these are chronic ailments, so besides the neck break, I still live with and deal with all the other issues every day, and I will until that day I go to see Jesus, and then I will be completely and perfectly healed. But God has healed my soul through this. He has strengthened me. I lean on him. I'm not filled with hate anymore. I'm so thankful for that. I'm so thankful for all the people that are around me who love me in spite of the times when I'm full of bitterness and hate and anger. All right. Thanks for listening, guys. God bless you.
Thank you for listening. If you would like to hear more stories and follow our devotions, you can go to www.sevenrivers.org/by life or by death. You are loved and you matter.